Highlights of the 2015 South African Rally Championship is proudly presented by the South African Rally Commission and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sasol and Dunlop. We've been to no less than 6 provinces where the best of the best fought each other, as well as the stopwatch on more than 80 special stages covering more than 600 kilometres of gravel, mud and dust. And now only one battle remains. It is also the battle that will decide the ultimate outcome. This is the final round of the 2015 South African Rally Championship. After 6 of the 8 rounds that make up the South African Rally Championship, it was pretty even between the sport's 2 arch-rivals Mark Cronje and Leroy Polter, with 3 wins apiece. But that was before they headed to the Western Cape for the annual Toyota Cape Dealer Rally. It was make or break for both, but in the end, it was Polter who came off second best after hitting a wall on Friday and crashing out heavily on Sunday, leaving Cronje to romp to yet another victory. So, with just 1 round to go, it's advantage Cronje with a total of 88 points, 7.5 clear of Polter. They are the only 2 with a chance of taking the title, while the name of either Gugu Zulu or Janelle de Villiers will end up in 3rd position on the championship points table. And this will be the scene of the final battle of 2015. The bushveld of Limpopo, or the areas to the north and south of the city of Polokwane, to be precise. The stages are a mixture of both fast and open gravel roads, as well as tight tracks between trees and other obstacles, leaving no room for error, while the Dunlop Service Park is situated in the shadow of the impressive Peter Mokaba World Cup Soccer Stadium. And these are the 2 faces of the drivers who will battle it out for championship glory. Both Mark Cronje and Leroy Polter are former champions, and one of them will add to their tally here in Polokwane, but which one?
For sure, for me this weekend we need to win. And then obviously we can't control what happens behind us, but you know, Mark needs to finish 4th or worse for us to win the championship.
The pressure really is on him. I think he's going to come out the blocks really hard this morning. I'm expecting that. But from us, you know, we really need to focus and make sure that we have a clean car for tomorrow, because I think we need to finish the rally and finish strong.
Perhaps the biggest story to hit the rally circus was the news that after 33 years of being a major role player in all forms of South African motorsport, Volkswagen South Africa decided to close the doors of its official motorsport division. Although the South African motoring giant will still support motorsport, this could well be the last time that we see its factory rally drivers in action.
No, it's going to be sad. It's not just the drivers or the navigators, but more so the crew behind. You know, these guys have won more than 6 championships. For now, we're closing this chapter and opening up another new one.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a difficult event with everything that's happened, but you know, we have to push forward and try and have a really good event.
And what a backdrop for the start of the final battle of 2015. The Peter Mokaba Stadium provided the start venue where the teams were eagerly waved off by the City Fathers. The Ford of Mark Cronje was the unlucky one to sweep the roads, followed by the Toyota of Ernie van der Walt. The 2 Volkswagen Polos of Gugu Zulu and Hakan Fekken were 3rd and 4th on the road respectively, ahead of the Toyota of Janelle de Villiers and 2 more Volkswagens, the Polos driven by Thilo Himmel and Henk Lategan. Title hopeful Leroy Polter started in 8th. The roads on stage 1 just outside of town were waterlogged and flooded, leaving the organisers no choice but to move the rally straight onto stage 2 called De Prier. The 10 kilometres of loose gravel roads at De Prier was to be immediately followed by 13 kilometres of tight and twisty roads on the Snyman farm. The 2015 Polokwane Motor Rally is all about 2 things: the championship fight between Marc Cronje and Leroy Polter, and what could possibly be the last chance to see the much-loved Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polos in action. Marc Cronje and Gerard Snyman were the first ones to show their opening hand by setting the first benchmark time of 7 minutes 6 seconds on the opening stage. But Cronje found the going slippery from being first on the road.
Right 3 is caution, left 7. Right 8. Caution, left 7, left 5. Right 4 cut, jump, right 7 arrow.
From way further back, Leroy Polter was in the ideal position to pounce on the situation, and pounce he did. 6 minutes and 55 seconds, or 11 seconds quicker than his rival. This was the Ford Performance Fiesta, negotiating the very tight and narrow tracks of Stage 3, where rocks, trees and other obstacles were lying and waiting to take a big bite out of any tyre that dared to venture wide on any of the stage's many corners. But no such problems for Cronje, who completes the stage in a time of 9 minutes and 7 seconds. And this is Leroy Polter and Alvin Coetzee in the Castrol Toyota Yaris, negotiating the same piece of narrow bushveld road. It's all or nothing for Polter here in Polokwane this weekend, but that was impact with the nearby Flora, an impact that clearly punctured more than just a tyre, but perhaps also flattened his hopes of winning a second successive title. More than 35 seconds were lost in the process. With the initial advantage going Cronje's way, all remaining eyes were now on the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polos. The one driven by Gugu Zulu and Hilton Orfrey started the event with a very good chance to end the season in third on the points ladder. But Zulu first had to overcome the Castrol Toyota Yaris of Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan. And that was no easy task. In fact, de Villiers had plans of his own, and after successfully completing both the opening 2 stages, the Dakar star not only managed to beat Zulu by a good 30-odd seconds, but also to lead the event outright. But de Villiers' lead was a slender one, because the men on the move, not only here in Polokwane, but the last few events, were none other than Henk Lateghan and Barry White in the second of the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polos. Lateghan won the first stage of the day, and although he lost a second or two on the following stage, ended the opening loop just 0.2 of a second behind the leader, Janelle de Villiers. And Lateghan wasn't the only Volkswagen driver in a hurry. Young Namibian Thilo Himmel and co-driver Armand de Toy in the Volkswagen Genuine Parts Polo lost a few seconds on the opening stage, but set the second quickest time of all on Stage 3. While Sasol Racing teammates and former champions Hergen Fekken and Pierre Aris were pushing just as hard. Fekken was pleased with his performance on the opening stage, but like Polter, he too made contact with the scenery on Stage 3, losing valuable time in the process.
We drove about 8 kilometers on right front flat, so that's not good.
The Vecto Petroleum Yaris of Ernie van der Walt and Greg Godridge did not hit anything, but a broken side shaft and a few other technical niggles also relegated them down the leaderboard after the opening loop of stages. And time for a quick breather in the Dunlop Service Park back at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane. And time for the crews to reflect on what's already proved to be a hectic opening loop of stages. After hitting a tree and losing valuable seconds, it will now be an uphill battle for championship hopeful Leroy Polter.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of rocks in that stage. We tried to avoid one on the road, and we ran wide we went off the road, and then we hit a rock off on the side of the road.
Henk Lateghan is once again finding himself near the top of the standings, very near, in fact, just 0.2 of a second back.
I don't know if strategy is going to come into play to see who sweeps the road for tomorrow, so we'll have to plan a bit and see what happens.
And the man at the very top of the early leaderboard is none other than Janelle de Villiers.
Yeah, we had 2 good stages. We just really concentrated to keep it clean.
And on to Stage 4, or Dupré, the same 10 kilometres that were used as Stage 2 a little earlier. But now a bit of a strategy will come into play, as the leader after day 1 will have to sweep the roads on day 2. And no one wants to do that. so they may try and influence the leaderboard on the final stage of the day. It is very difficult to influence the standings from first on the road, but even so, Marc Renier slowed down a little towards the end of the day's final stage just to make absolutely sure that he didn't have to sweep on the final day. Henk Latergan and Barry White had the same idea behind the wheel of the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo. Cronier's time on the stage was 6 minutes and 56.3 seconds, and Latergan slowly crossed the line to stop the clock at 6 minutes 56.5. It's slower, but not slow enough. So it was already clear that Latergan would start the final day in front of Marc Renier, but who will be the overall road sweeper? The answer was plain and simple. Genil de Villiers couldn't care and put his head down to top the overall standings at the end of day one.
I think that's the most important thing, we need to stay clean today.
Behind the top four, Thilo Himmel drove well to move into the overall top five, ahead of the remaining Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polos of Gugu Zulu and Herman Fecken. Ended day one on exactly the same time, down to the last tenth of a second. So Genil de Villiers led the way 8 seconds ahead of Latergan and less than 9 seconds ahead of Marc Renier. Leroy Poulter will have a mountain to climb and was currently down in fourth, with Thilo Himmel rounding off the top five. Third on the road, and with his main title rival even further back, Marc Renier ended day one of the Polokwane Motor Rally exactly where he wanted to be.
Yeah, it is. We've actually had a near perfect day, and I feel very grateful. The car is absolutely fantastic, and the guys have done a tremendous amount of work. I think when we needed to push, we could.
The sun has risen over the Limpopo bushveld, well, sort of anyway, to mark the start of the last day of the entire 2015 South African Rally Championship. Just 5 more stages remained. 5 stages covering 140 kilometres against the stopwatch, and 5 stages to determine where the overall championship crown would go. Stage 5 on the Kruger farm to the north of Polokwane was a full 38 kilometres in distance. Kruger was to be followed by 18 more kilometres of farmland and bushveld type roads on the Schulenburg farm across the road. And to make matters worse, crews had to also deal with 18 more kilometres on the Ullermans and Versailles farms that made up stage 7 before they could get the opportunity to catch a breather. And this was it, the start of the last day of rallying in 2015. And as overnight leaders, it was the Castrol Toyota Yaris of Genil de Villiers and Carolyn Swan to get the proceedings underway. De Villiers was under no illusions and knew very well that he would lose loads of time while sweeping the roads. The question was, how much?
Really slippery, and it's not easy to get your braking right, corner speed and things like that.
The answer that came in the form of Henk Latergan and Barry White was quite simply a lot. The Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo went a full 13 seconds quicker than De Villiers on stage 5 to take over the lead. Latergan then took another 4 seconds from De Villiers on stage 6 and yet another 4 seconds on stage 7. So the young man was on fire. But so was Marc Renier. Together with Gerhard Snyman in the hot seat, the Ford Performance Fiesta powered through the 38 kilometres on the Kruger farm in a stage-winning time of just 23 minutes 55 seconds to take over the lead of the Polokwane Motor Rally. Although Renier gave away a few seconds to stage winner Latergan on the following 2 stages, it was still enough to hold on to the overall lead. And what about title rival Leroy Poulter? Remember the scenario. Poulter had to win at all costs and hoped that Renier finished 4th or worse in order for the Castrol Toyota driver to retain his crown. But it was looking very unlikely. In fact, the positions were perfectly reversed, with Renier currently leading and Poulter down in 4th. With four of the biggest names in South African rallying occupying the top four positions on the overall leaderboard, it was almost easy to overlook the excellent performance by young Namibian Thilo Himmel and South African co-driver Armand de Tooy in the Volkswagen Genuine Parts Polo. Himmel set 3 consecutive top 3 stage times to move to within just 27 seconds of the overall lead. With the imminent closure of Volkswagen Motorsport, the 2015 Polokwane Motor Rally could well have been the final outing for Volkswagen stalwarts Gugu Zulu and teammate Hargen Vekker. Zulu still had dreams of finishing the year third on the points log, but it wasn't to be.
Into fourth right three, something's broken. Gate right 9, something's broken.
We almost had a clean season where we finished every single round, and all I can say is just thanks to the team for the awesome work they've done throughout the years, and yeah, that's Otto.
A sad ending to the popular driver's season, and in one final blow, Lady Luck also turned her back on Volkswagen teammate Hargen Vekker.
We decided to try and see if we could get to the end of the stage, and just before 2 corners from the end, the whole wheel came out, and yeah, that's our event.
But, as they say, the show must go on. And it did for youngster Ernie van der Walt and Greg Godrich in the Vecto Petroleum Toyota Yaris. With the car and its side shafts working fine on the final day, the young man gladly accepted the gift and moved up into 6th position overall, ahead of the older specification and NRC 4-class Salom Group Toyota Auris of Tian Joubert and schoolgirl navigator Marie van der Walt. Joubert was also leading the NRC 4-class ahead of the similar accident guru machine of Piet Bakkes and Sean Visser, who lost loads of time on day 1. The names of Zulu and Vekker disappeared from the leaderboard, perhaps for the final time. But at the top, it was business as usual for Mark Cronje, who held a slender 1.2-second advantage over Henk Lategan. As expected, Janelle de Villiers lost time on day 2 and dropped to 3rd, with teammate Leroy Polter now breathing down his neck. Thilo Himmel occupied an excellent 5th position. These were desperate times for Leroy Polter, who still had an outside chance to defend his title, but chances were getting slim.
We've had some steering issues today, so we'll have to see 2 more stages to go, and let's see what happens.
Janelle de Villiers knew that sweeping the road on day 2 could cost him time, and it did.
We lost a bit of time on the first stage, but I was expecting that. So, I mean, if you said to me this morning I would lose just over 20 seconds to those 2 guys, I mean, I would have probably accepted that.
With little more to lose, young Henk Lategan was only 1.2 seconds behind and chasing his first overall victory.
Hopefully this time through will be a lot quicker. And then the last stage, you know, we won the stage the first run through, so hopefully we can give it a good go again.
And at the top, Mark Cronje was not only leading the battle, but also on course to win the overall war.
Well, it's difficult to say right now. I'm going to carry on pushing and have a nice clean run, but I definitely want to win the war, so that's my focus at the moment. I want the championship.
So it was off to the final 2 battlegrounds of 2015. The same 38 kilometres that made up Kruger earlier in the day would also host Stage 8, while the Schulenburg Farm would see the entire championship draw to a close after the running of Stage 9. These were the last 2 stages of the entire 2015 South African Rally Championship, and for some perhaps the last 2 stages of their careers, but for others perhaps the last real chance to try and affect the outcome of the event. One such person was Namibian Thilo Himmel, who was truly competitive here in Polokwane this weekend. But the young man's good run ended when a rock near the end of Stage 8 put a sad end to his challenge and relegated the Volkswagen Genuine Parts crew to the sidelines. Himmel's demise opened the road for Tiaan Schubert and Marie van der Walt to climb the leaderboard all the way up into 6th position overall, and to with it also claim the honours that came with a victory in the NRC4 class for older specification S2000 cars. And youngster Ernie van der Walt recovered well after suffering numerous problems on day 1 to have a much better run on day 2. Together with experienced co-driver Greg Godridge, the Vecto Petroleum driver climbed the leaderboard while others faltered and were rewarded with an excellent 5th place overall. Many questions were answered, but many still needed answering. Questions such as, what will the final podium of the Polokwane Motor Rally look like? Will Volkswagen go out in a blaze of glory with a maiden victory for young Henk Lategan? Where will Janelle de Villiers fit into all of this? But most importantly, who will be crowned overall rally champion? Marc Renier or Leroy Poulter? Let's start with the name of Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan in the Castrol Toyota Yaris. De Villiers had the honours, or was it the disadvantage to open the road on day 2 and lost the lead as a result? And now that stages 8 and 9 returned to swept roads, the Yaris was back up to speed, but the damage was done. De Villiers could only cruise to a 3rd place finish and a 3rd on the final points table as well. These were especially emotional moments for the entire Volkswagen Sassel racing team, as this could well have been their last event as a factory outfit. And at the same time, young Henk Lategan and Barry White, who've been knocking on victory's door for some time now, were quite literally on the doorstep of an emphatic and maiden career victory. But this too wasn't to be, as the 4th gear inside the Polo's gearbox cried enough, bringing a frustrating end to the young man's challenge and leaving him with no option but to settle for 2nd position.
Sorry, man.
This left us with only one more question to answer. It's a question that started early in the season when Marc Renier and Robin Houghton won 3 events on the trot to take the early championship lead, when Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee bounced back by claiming 3 consecutive victories of their own, and one that will finally be answered here in Polokwane after 9 months of full-scale war. Let us remind you of the scenario. Leroy Poulter needed to win, while Renier could not afford to finish 4th or worse. Well, Poulter gave it his all, but a mistake on day 1 coupled with power steering issues on day 2 meant that he wasn't going to win the rally nor the title. 4th place in the Battle of Polokwane and 2nd in the overall war. Which meant that Marc Renier crossed the flying finish for yet another emphatic victory, his 5th of the season. It was a tough fight, but with the help of longtime co-driver Robin Houghton for the first 6 events of the season, and with new co-driver Gerard Snyman in the hot seat for the final 2 events, Marc Renier claimed another South African Rally Championship title, his 3rd in the last 4 years. Confirmation then of the final leaderboard of 2015 and confirmation of Renier's double victory, taking both the Polokwane Motor Rally and the title in the process. Henk Lategan came agonisingly close to his maiden victory in Volkswagen's last rally as a factory team, while consistency earned Janelle de Villiers another podium finish, ahead of teammate Leroy Poulter and Ernie van der Walt. Tiaan Schubert and Marie van der Walt were rewarded for their efforts by spraying the NRC4 class champagne ahead of Piet Bakkes and Sean Visser. But at the sharp end of the leaderboard, a good rally season is exactly what Janelle de Villiers wanted in his preparation for the Dakar. And a podium finish was a nice way to end the season.
The main goal was to try and get 3rd in the championship. That was a realistic goal and we managed to do that. So thanks to the team, thanks to Toyota.
Polokwane was a matter of so close, but yet so far away for Henk Lategan, who missed out on a maiden victory.
Yeah, we had a good run. I think our pace is good now and the car's pace is good, so I hope we can drive again next year.
And hats off to Marc Renier, who finished the 2015 season off in fine style by winning both the battle and the war.
Absolutely ecstatic. I mean, I couldn't think we were going to win this event. It was really just to try and focus on the war. But coming out with a win and having a clean run, I mean, we literally had a seamless event.
It's been a battle of epic proportions on a battlefield where dreams can come true, but where they can also be shattered. We salute all the warriors who made it so epic. We congratulate the ones who came out on top, and we thank Volkswagen Motorsport for giving us 33 years of entertainment. To be continued. Highlights of the South African Rally Championship was proudly presented by the South African Rally Commission and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sasol and Dunlop.